Today, I have the beautiful 𝐧𝐦𝐞𝐳 on the Awaken Feminine podcast, and she's joining me all the way from Luxembourg in Europe. Welcome to the show.
Hello, hi everyone. I'm super excited to be here, and thanks for having me in your show.
Yeah, I'm excited for our conversation, and I'm sorry again that I pronounced your name completely wrong. But I yeah, so I
Yeah,
tried my best. Yeah. So, Gull, can you give our audience a quick introduction of who you are and what you do so they know a little bit more about you?
Yeah, of course. So I am a mindfulness trainer, but at the same time, my passion is healing. So I'm a healer and a transformation coach. I'm doing these two things at the same time. I usually help with people, usually high achievers, in order to get them unstuck. So my niche is if you're stuck in a situation, if you're stuck in your career, if you're stuck in the relationship, or if you feel like you're stuck, you want to do more, this is where my niche is. I help people to transform.
Mm, that's awesome. Now, Gull, I would love to ask you this question because I always love to ask my guests this question before we dive into more about your journey. And that is, what is your definition of an awakened feminine?
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful question because last year actually, I had a disease related to my ovaries. So it really made me question, how can I awaken the feminine within me? What is divine feminine? And I realized over this disease, actually, for me, what is feminine energy is actually to love and accept yourself the way you are and make complete peace with yourself. Not when you're healed, not when you're beautiful, not when you have all the ABCs on your target list, not when you look hot and sexy. It's just to embrace who you are fully and be open to share it vulnerably.
Mm, that's a beautiful definition. Thank you for sharing that. I think, most of us, whether you're male or female, we tend to not accept ourselves when we don't have all the things that we want. And that is, not how it should be, but it's just the way we've been taught because we need to have all the external things, like you said, look good, have all the things before we feel good. But it's really, we need to feel good in order to actually attract those things as well. So, yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Now, girl, I'd love for you to share with us your journey because I know you were doing completely different things before you became a mindset coach and healer. Can you unpack your journey with us? Like, how did you go from, I know you went in corporate to now doing this work?
Actually, my journey started 10 years ago, exact 10 years ago. I was working in a corporate. I really loved my job. I had no problems with it. I was a marketing manager with one of so actually I had a pretty cool life. But when you're having struggles, sometimes they come out as diseases or physical problems. So this is how I started. I started to have different type of physical struggles, and one of them needed a surgery. And that time, my left brain, my my education, my left brain, my mind understand why should I get a surgery because there is nothing in my scans, but there is no solution as well. So in that time, because I tried everything and I was ready to try whatever comes to my way, I decided to try these healing modalities. So this is actually how my path started. I started to work with a healer. She became my first teacher, and this lady back then, she was in Istanbul, and she was an Armenian lady. She had this that one day I would be a healer. And I never believed her, but I was like, okay, she's a nice lady with some weird visions, but okay, I like her as a person. And she decided to teach me. She gave me books. She did teach me as her student. And I was learning everything because I realized, oh my God, the more I use these techniques on me, the more my life is getting better. My diseases, I never get the surgery. Then I went through a divorce, which was actually the root cause of my disease. I get through my divorce. I didn't fall into, it was easy for me to get out of my depression. And then I start to use these techniques to manifest the life I want. But I was just focusing on myself, to be honest. And I had no intention to share it with anyone. But again, this lady was, you're so ready. The person who who needs will come to you soon. So get ready. And I was like, no, I'm going to be, my career path is there. Then I moved to Luxembourg with career as well. Again, the Amazon headquarters, Europe headquarters is in Luxembourg.
Wow.
And they offered me a job and I came here with a job. But really, as Rumi says, what you seek is seeking you. One of my friends who know what I'm doing for myself in terms of healing, her son get a brain tumor surgery and he was in coma. And the mother asked me if I can work with him. And I couldn't say no because in my culture it's too rude to say no to these things. And I say, okay, I just go there. I just see what I can do. And I started this way. And I realized many parts of me who was also wounded, who needs the healing. So it looks like I was healing them, but they were also healing me. I started to work with people, one person, then the second, then the third. And here is very small. And when you do this type of work, people talk all the time. They start to talk. And I realize I perform better if I even don't see the person because I'm a bit psychic. It's better for me if I am without any distraction. I can just close my eyes and tune in and do the readings, do the channelings. And I convert everything to online before COVID. So 2 years before COVID, I started doing everything online. And that time people were making fun. You're never going to find clients. But actually it expanded because people have friends all over the world. So they were talking. So I had more clients and more clients and more clients. And then the COVID hit. First, I shift my job, which I really liked at Amazon, to part-time. So I was doing part-time healing and part-time business. And these two worlds are a bit different than each other. So it was a bit hard time for me to navigate both. And during that time with COVID, people were stuck in the houses. Everybody started to be more depressed. And my manager told me one day, Gül, you know, your business is doing really well with whatever you're doing in this coaching side. Can you create some workshops for us internally to teach some of these things like meditation, mindfulness? Can you do this? And I said, I would love to. And I created a series and I started to do these mindfulness trainings and they became pretty good. And after some time, I said, okay, it's time for me to leave so that I can bring these workshops to more people and I can also work with more people. And I think 1.5 years ago, I left my corporate jobs after 15 years of corporate life. And I'm always telling the listeners, if you're in corporate job, it's good actually, because it also has so many benefits. So we always want to look at, it has so many, you're like trapped here, but no, it also gives you so many possibilities, opportunities. But I decided to go solo. Now I'm just doing this mindfulness training and deep healing kind of coaching. I'm also a certified coach, but my niche is more on healing.
Wow.
It's my turn.
So you've got lots of gifts apart from doing the mindset work as well. So I really want to dive in a bit more. But I want to ask you, so when your friend asked you to go and, heal her son, you said he was in a coma. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So
yeah, he was in hospital actually.
So, and you're like, I don't, you're like, okay, I'll go and do it. So what did you actually do to help? And did it work? And how? I was just so curious to find out your first experience to help someone. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So actually I had to say yes because I didn't know what to say on the phone. But before that, I never worked with anyone. So I was very good at working with myself. I was working with myself 5 years and I was seeing all the results and I was so happy with this healing work on myself, but I never worked with anyone. So actually when I first went there, I was just praying that the doctors just don't let me in so that I can get rid of the situation. And here is Luxembourg. So you cannot just go and walk in a hospital, especially in a special unit of coma, it's not possible. And the doctors first didn't let me in. And I was like, okay, God, if they don't let me in, I see you and I understand. It's okay, thank you for helping me. But the mother was my friend and she was talking to the doctors and she managed to get me inside. And I remember, I think everything is energy. I had no idea what I was doing. I was just so stressed because they were watching me from the glass. And they were really questioning. And it was my 4th month in Luxembourg. So in 6 months, they can send you back. When you move to a new country, to a new job, you have a probation period. So I was actually in my probation period. And I was freaking out because I'm like, they're going to call the cops. What do? You never work with anyone. You're like no one. You don't know anything. And I was just freaking out. But I was trying to look like I know what I'm doing. And I put my hands on the kid. And of course, he was, his head was all, it was after the surgery.
Yeah.
And I was just freaking out. And before entering in, I called my first teacher and I told her what I'm going to do. I couldn't say yes. I didn't know anything. And she was like, look, you're so ready. They put you in such a situation where you cannot say anything. You have to go in there. Just trust yourself and start channeling. Everything you work last 5 years will come to you. And it didn't happen. I put my hands on the kid and I was just like, Gül, you're a fraud. You have no idea what you're doing. The doctors are watching you out there. They're going to put you to jail. What is your explanation? I was just thinking all these thoughts. And because he was in coma on a special care, the brain waves, they're monitoring everything. And the machines got crazy. They're like, beep, 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 beep.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm really going to jail. And that moment, I don't know why, Sabrina came and we just met her a couple of times. I just moved to Luxembourg. She was my agent who helped me. I just told her my story of my depression, my divorce, my healing story. She just know my story, which I didn't tell to anyone before because I was hiding this healing side, even from my friends, because I had an amazing career. I didn't want to look hoo-hoo. I didn't want people to make fun of me or judge me. I just told her. And in the end, she came back and asked for help. And then this lady came and when I was freaking the kid out, he moved his hand and he tried to get rid of his stitches, which he was trying to get rid of me because I was so scared. Probably I was just channeling this fear energy back to him. And that moment, the mother came and held his hands and looked me in there and I said, Gül, I trust you. After that sentence, I don't remember anything. I just closed my eyes and I started to do everything I know. And this was the first time I actually started channeling. Channeling means you just connected to divine. Maybe you can say angels. I start to hear some voices. They're telling me where to put my hands or they're telling me what kind of prayers to do. It was the first time actually. Then I opened my eyes and I just realized, okay, I'm not in jail yet. The machine is calm. The mother is outside talking to doctor. Grandmother is crying and hugging me. I'm like, okay, what happened? And then they let me to go there. I went there for a couple of months, actually. This is how I started. I always tell everyone, my first client was my hardest client. After that, I never worked with kids because in Europe, you really need to have different things to work with kids. And I was lucky. First one was a friend and it was a hospital and everything went smooth. But I always tell everyone, they sometimes ask me, you don't get panic or how do you know it's going to work? And I always tell my clients, I don't know if it's going to work or not, because I'm just a messenger. You do the healing actually, because nobody can heal nobody. I don't have such a power. If I have it, I would sell it for €1 million. It's an amazing power. People like me, especially when you combine it with coaching, you help others to see their dark spots, like the blind spots, so that because they go back to that memory, because they look at that blind spot, it helps them to resolve some conflicts in their life so that they can move, actually. Hope it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. Wow, what an experience for your first time.
Yeah, my first time was the hardest.
Yeah. So he came out of the coma and everything.
No, it's not just one thing actually, because he came out to coma, but he was half paralyzed. Then a couple of months later, his sight came. Then he started walking again. Then he started using his hand again. It was a very, very long period. I think I went to this hospital maybe good 1 year. But then he get out and he's a kid. So again, with kids, there are different techniques that you need to work. Then we became friends with him and his family. Yeah, so it is not just one thing. It's a combination of everything. And then I told him now it's time for him to work with someone else because I don't have these qualifications of working with a kid. It's especially the sessions I do right now, because what I do keeps changing a lot. Where I was 5 years ago and where I am now is completely different. I really take people to those memories which they don't want to look, which maybe they're not even aware of. And they cry their heart out. So with kids, it's a bit different story. You don't want to put those things on their face. You don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And yeah, it's, you started off with a comatose child and now that really would be the hardest client that you would have. Yeah. And now you're working with people like adults and things like that. So Can you share with us? I remember you saying that you know, your healing started because you started getting feeling unwell and getting, you
Yeah.
know, sick. Can you talk a bit about that? Because and then you said that it was your husband that were well, your ex-husband that was the root cause of it. Can you unpack that a bit further for us to just get our listeners to understand like how, you know, something can actually cause or, you know, manifest as disease in your body?
Yeah, it was actually not my ex-husband, so I don't want to put the blame
Oh,
on him.
yeah.
It was actually the it was where I put myself, because
Mm,
I was raised with some in a culture where for a woman, being married is important, and the success is important. Failure is not welcome, and your image is more important. What others say is more important than anything. What neighbors say is more important than your happiness. So as long as they think you're a good girl, as long as they think you're a proper woman, then you can die inside. You know, the rest doesn't matter. So as long as the image is good, the rest doesn't matter. And I really put myself in prison of something that was not real. And this is why I love to talk about stuckness, because I made my stuck in that life. So it was nobody's fault, actually.
mm,
And the main reason why I started healing was my hand. My hand was blocked, my right hand here, and I couldn't do like normal move of the hand. And they get MRIs, my hand stayed in cast for 2 months, and they couldn't solve the issue. And I needed to get the surgery. This is when I woke up. This is when I say, okay, I'm so stuck. My hand is stuck.
mm,
So the message is very clear here. So what I did that time is actually with the person that I work with, because I didn't know how to do healing that time, is to just look at all the areas of my life, understanding, forgiving myself, forgiving my ex-husband, forgiving anyone, forgiving my parents, and understanding that everything happened for a reason, but it is time, rather than crying and feeling victim and staying in the blame game, owning and having the courage to change my life. Rather than putting any blame. And I'm so grateful I did that, because that journey made me change the country that I live in, the job that I worked, and it made me find my soulmate. I'm married again. It's been 3 years. And if I didn't look at, I love Rumi. So I always quote from Rumi because I love all his poets. One of the things that what he was saying is your task is not to seek love. It is to look for the blocks, look for what is preventing you within yourself from love to come in. So
mm,
actually, it was my story. After my divorce, I couldn't date with anyone. There were 3 years where I didn't date with anyone. So I always needed to go back inside. Okay, what is blocking here? What is blocking here? And I fell in love with this path, because it doesn't mean that you live happy all the time. You will never be healed. Life goes on. But it means when the life hits you and there are struggles, you can always move, you can always transform, you can always make something out of it. And when you don't, this is where the diseases starts. I see all the diseases as a symptom. Sometimes when I don't want to change something, when I resist, I have a knee pain, for example. I also had meniscus before. I also didn't get surgery from it. So my learning with this is actually when I realize, okay, I need to move. I'm not moving. My knee blocked. And when I just accept my situation and my need to move, then the pain in my knee just disappeared. So
mm,
I'm a huge believer that we kind of some struggles in our life can be messengers through the diseases.
mm. Yeah, that's really powerful. And I want to talk about, you know, the stuckness. So with you, it was, you know,
Yes.
you were feeling stuck and it was in your hand. And I know there, you know, there'll be people listening that will be like, I'm stuck. Like, what do I do? What is the first thing I can do to start feeling unstuck? Because, like you say, a lot of times it is to do with like that, you know, that victim mentality where it's like, oh, poor me, you know, why is my life like this? But there's no taking responsibility, which again comes with the courage kind of hand in hand. So you know, what's the first thing for you to what's the first thing for someone who wants to become unstuck? What action should
Yeah.
they
So
take? Yeah.
yeah. I love this topic. This is actually the main reason why I work with my clients. This is usually the reason why they come to me. I'm feeling stuck. I don't know why. And I would love to say, you should do this first. But to be honest, in my experience, and I work with hundreds of people, I did more than 5,000 healing hours. And usually people are stuck, not because they procrastinate or not because they're lazy or not because they're victim. They are stuck because there's a fear there or there's pain somewhere. And both are relevant and both are real. So the pain is coming from a story that happened before, or the fear is the outcome of something that happened before. So those people are high achievers. They're not stuck in their daily lives. They can get the things done. They're not just sitting there and stuck. No, they take their kids from the school, they prepare the presentations, they cook for the family. So they don't sit and say, I'm stuck in the life. But when it comes to them and what they want to achieve, they feel stuck. So this is why I think the first thing is always is to go to the root cause. Because when you don't go to the root cause, and I tried many different healers and therapies in my own journey as well. And some therapies first say, okay, it's not important to root cause, just let's get in the action. But when you have the root cause, you carry it with you. It's like, it's not important how many countries you change. If you have grief, you're carrying this grief with you. It's not important how many holidays you go. If you feel unworthy, your unworthiness comes with you. So this is why I think the first thing is that just go through this painful process. You just do it on once and understand what is the root cause. And the root cause can be different for everyone. For everyone. For example, I had a client and he wanted to promote and he couldn't. And he was very angry about the whole situation. And that time, the country he was living in, he was telling that because he was from Hispanic background, he was a Latino. He said they're doing discrimination for me because I'm a Latino. It could be true, by the way. But I'm always saying, usually we attract what we believe. Mm-hmm. So we worked on his feeling of being inferior, which is not coming from the country he lives today, actually, which is coming from his childhood, from how his parents behave next to his friends. So we just healed the ones he just made look at those times and forgive his father for this feeling of inferiority. And then he got promoted on this country. This is what I'm saying, because if you just, okay, maybe they're racist, let's look at here, but you carry the feeling with you. So this is why I immediately say, it's not my ex-husband. It was not his fault. It was actually me, the success criteria that I put in myself. It was actually my upbringing of putting everything and everyone and this shame, the family name in front of everyone was my issue that I needed to deal with. It was nobody's fault. So this is why I always believe, first you need to go to the root of why do you feel like that?
Mm. So I think a lot of times people don't know the root when they do the work themselves. Yeah. So, what would you suggest that they do to start looking for the root cause? Like, is there a technique or an exercise that is, that might be helpful for someone to go and, start digging a bit deeper? Yeah.
By themselves, right?
Yeah, by themselves.
Yeah, so the best thing I think to do the digging by yourself is journaling, but not 1 page, not 2 page, minimum 3 page on the same topic. You dig. After some time, you're like, actually it's because of that. But usually this technique with all my clients, when it's a traumatic issue, it doesn't work so much because we don't want to look at the trauma by ourselves. We're all scared. So in those, if it's coming through, you realize there's a resistance. If it's coming through a trauma, then of course work with someone. Because your mind is trying to stop you to go there so that you don't get hurt. Somebody really needs to poke you and trigger you. I always tell my clients, you don't need to like me during the session. I don't care. You need to tell us the best investment after 4 months. I want your testimonial. During the session, it's okay. You can get a bit triggered because somebody really, really needs to trigger you and take you there so that you can look at that memory. But when you do it with yourself, I understand it's quite hard, but not of all problems are coming through trauma. So sometimes we have some issues that are not as big as the other ones. So for these ones, it really, really works to do a journaling. And if you don't know how to journal, there are some amazing books which can guide you on these journaling questions. For example, one book that I really like and use for myself, for my own healing, is Debbie Ford, The Dark Side of Light Chasers. So it helps you to look at your dark side. It has many exercises within the book. You do many journaling, but it kind of guides you for a bit mindful journaling. Use that one.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I totally agree. Like, I think if you really want to look deep and do the healing, working with someone is the best, because most of the times you don't see what, you don't want to go where you're supposed to go because you just don't want to see it.
Yeah, and it's not because, again, you're lazy or you're a liar or whatever. Sometimes we just block this memory. We don't want to go there.
Yeah.
We don't want to go there.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I want to ask you, so you were talking about channeling before, and that you're a bit psychic, and actually you prefer working with people and actually not seeing them. Can you talk a bit about that? I find that really interesting. Well, can you talk a bit more about you developing your gifts? I know you said when you with your first client, you started just channeling and you're like, oh, what happened? Obviously, then as you progress, you're like, you would have developed your gifts further. So can you talk a bit about how you felt when that kind of just came online and you're like, oh, I've never done this before. What was your feelings? And then
Yeah, I think it didn't came like one time, right? Because before working with that kid, I was working 5 years with myself. So I was really tuning into my own energy. I was really tuning into, let's say, angels, the divine. I knew how to do it for myself. But when I started working with people, I realized that it was very basic. So I need to go deeper. And that part really, really took, I think, last 6 years now. I think it's the 6 years before I work with the kid. Since then, I'm still learning almost each and every week. I go to every course that I find. I work with many people. Most of them are teaching me what not to do, unfortunately, rather than what to do. But some of them also teaches me what to do. So, but it required a lot of practice. So it really didn't grow overnight. When I first started, I was more feeling. So it was coming to me. This intuition was coming as a feeling to my heart. I know, okay, I need to talk about this. But then the more you do it, the more work on your psychic skills. Then I start to actually see the images. I was like, okay, I'm seeing you 5 years old, probably you're 5 years old here. And I see you're in a kitchen. Oh yeah, I was at this memory. So then I went to the seeing. Then I developed hearing. So they really come by one. And each time one of them came, I need to go through an upgrade in my life. What does it mean? I was scared to tell it to people. I was thinking I'm crazy. I was like, there's no way I can tell people that I hear things. They would judge me. And guess what? People were judging me. Then I realized, okay, it's internal. Why are you so scared? Like, again, back to yourself, like release all the fears, all the limiting beliefs. Because when you work on your beliefs, the limiting ones, when you shift them, you're not scared of them anymore. Then I realized, okay, I'm not scared of it anymore. I'm going to be open and I'm going to be able to share it. And the more I share it with my clients, the more I see the results. So I was very lucky because all this journey I work with people, and their transformation, their results gave me the confidence to be able to share it. But I remember first time I heard, and I tell my client, okay, I'm going to tell you something. I'm hearing this. She was like, how do you know? Nobody knows this. I'm like, good. So you don't think I'm crazy? She's like, no, I don't think you're crazy. Okay, then can you do it? I'm going to do it. Let's see the results. So I was so lucky that the people I work with gave me this room of test and error. And they always feed me with the feedback. But it's a journey. It requires a bit of practice and it requires a certain lifestyle.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because I think for people where, there's so many people awakening now, and, just seeing the people around me is like all of a sudden it's like popcorn, pop, pop, pop. And then people are starting to, get, have their spiritual gifts kind of awakening. So it's good to just share that so that people can go, oh, all right, okay. requires practice. And it's also, it just, you're not crazy. I think that's probably the main message. You're not crazy.
Yeah. And I would just, if you're listening to this and if you're feeling judged or if you're feeling, okay, what do I do with it? I always say the biggest mistake I did in the beginning of my healing practice was I tried to prove it to the people who were not into it. And it's really useless and it's a waste of time. So if people are making fun of it, it's okay. Not everybody needs to be your friend. And your friends maybe doesn't even need to understand this. And it's okay because you are here to serve for someone else. And when you just own who you are, those people come and find you. So I also realized, okay, it's not my job to teach people that. It's not my job to change their idea of who they are. And it's also beautiful. Difference is beautiful. If the rainbow is just yellow, we wouldn't like it. It's good with colors. It's good. Everyone is different. They don't need to believe to you because the ones who believe to you will come to you anyways. So I think when I shift to this mindset, it really gave me this peace of mind and it really expanded my business even more.
Thank you for sharing that. I totally resonate with everything that you say because I kind of gone through the same thing where it's like you just have to let it go. Just know that not everyone's your tribe and your people. And that was hard to learn as well, being like a chronic people pleaser before.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you now, why is it that you prefer actually not seeing people, like when you that's, I find that really interesting. So can you unpack that a bit?
Yeah, of course. Sorry, I didn't answer that. So when I first started working with people, I was working face to face. But I am also a person. So sometimes I go to the memories where they are really sad. And obviously, I always say crying is healing. When my clients cry, I'm like, oh, okay, good. So when they go to those juicy memories, of course, they cry. But if I stop there, oh, let me give you this, let me hold you. But I care, of course, if they cry. In that moment, it's really important that we understand what is the lesson rather than pampering anyone. And I realized when I don't care how I look, not how I look in terms of my makeup or etc., because I want to close my eyes and I want to tune in deeper and I want to hear better. And sometimes when I do it, I move my body. Sometimes I just get up. Sometimes I just hear from more right and I turn to right. And sometimes I turn to left. And I realize I look a bit creepy for the person who's in the room. So when I said, look, I'm not reading your body language. My eyes are always closed. So I don't need to see you. And you don't need to see me as well because I want your eyes to be closed. So when I shifted, actually, I was more tuned in. When I get rid of, okay, how they see me, okay, I don't want to scare them, or should I give them a napkin? When I get rid of everything and when I'm just there, just present with the energy, just present with, let me just be connected, I perform better. And it can be different for everyone because we're all different. We're all unique. So for me, when I realize I perform better and I serve better and their results are better, in the end, they're the ones who are paying for this service and they say, wow, it's way better. I shifted completely to online and without camera. Sometimes I come and say hi and we chat and etc. But when I do the session, unless they're like, no, I need to see you, I'm not on camera as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. And it makes a lot of sense. I mean, like you said, everyone's different. But I remember when I first started like my coaching journey, and when I was first coaching people, it was very much, I think I preferred actually not seeing them because then I can tune in. And then I went, oh, actually, I don't mind the video because I like seeing people's faces, but I do find I get distracted like when I actually see people. So I totally get where you're coming from, and that makes a lot of sense.
And I thought so it is, maybe it's not for some people, and I tell them in advance. I tell there's so many different healers, so many different modalities, so many different coaching, and they all work. The reason there are so many because they all work differently. So if it's not for you, let's not force it, because some people wants to be in one-to-one setting, some people wants to body touch, and it's perfectly okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Or some people want to see. We're all different. So this is why I explained in the beginning, this is how I work. Let's make sure if it's good for you, you feel comfortable as well or not.
Yeah, that's really good. Go, I want to ask you, this has popped into my head a few times as you were talking. I want to talk about the mindfulness program that you developed when you were at work, because I think, you know, with COVID and everything, and even, I mean, before COVID, like I used to work in a hospital, so it's highly stressful. Everyone's highly strung, and there isn't actually much that they do for people to relieve that, or, you know, to help them be mindful and just take a chill break. So can you, I don't know, I just wanted to ask you to just share a bit about why it's so important to have like mindfulness practice, you know, in the workplace.
Yeah, I think it is so important, especially with COVID. Let's be honest. It really is. The companies that I know, of course, it was somewhere in the topic, in the agenda, but it really became so dominant when the COVID hit, because people couldn't, because before COVID, we were using all this distraction. Let's go out, let's have party with friends, let's have drinks, let's go this, let's go shopping. So we were using all these distractions rather than not to look inside. So that we're not in depression. We put everything from outside. Let's see how much it can take us. But when we're in COVID, we just realized, okay, I cannot go shopping to get rid of my pain. I cannot go to drinks with my friends to get rid of my pain and gossip. I cannot do this. What do? I just have to face. And as more people face, we just realize, okay, there's more anxiety, there's more stress. And of course, this affected the business life, because there is not something as work and life, and then there is one life. When there is something going on in your private life, obviously it affects the business life as well. And with COVID, because we worked from the same place as well, so no distraction, because I'm just waking up, washing my face, and sitting to my dining table to work. It was more present in the energy, in the culture of the company. So this is why I think companies start to invest on this. It is very important because, again, there is one life. The happier you are, the better employee you are. The calm you are, the better employee you are. The more you handle your own issues, the better you serve the people around you. So I think people realize that these techniques help the companies to perform better, help the teams to perform better, help the individuals to perform better, and it affects the whole culture. So I think this is why it is very, very, very important.
So after you left your corporate job, because you've already developed this program, do you actually still, you know, teach it in different settings? Yeah.
Yes, actually. The reason I left, actually, there were another companies who wanted me to do it, but because when you work in one company, legally you cannot do it. So because it was my own program, I decided to leave. And since then, I'm doing it to the different companies in different locations. And when we're recording this, I'm super excited because I'm going to do this mindfulness workshop with the national football team. I always thought it's always females and leaders. I talk about feminine energy. I have no idea how the universe brought this opportunity. I'm going to do it with football players as well. So I really, really value it, because there we do live meditations. People who never tried it before, they tried the meditation, they tried this type of mindful journaling techniques, they tried how it feels to look inside, and it actually brings more value.
That's so awesome. Congratulations. That is just so cool. Like, I just love everything that you do. Can you share with us what a session with you looks like? You know, I know you'll be different for, you know, every client, but typically, like, kind of like for people that want to get unstuck, because that's, you know, the type of people you work with. What's a journey? I think that's what I want to get to. What's a journey with you if they want to work with you? Yeah.
I work with one person for almost 4 months, so we did 10 sessions. The reason for it is because it's really a journey. I really don't know how to do it in single session. Again, when I find it's going to be €1 million session, if there is one thing and you just solve all your issues. Usually what we do before we start, we align if this is a good technique for you, because how I work is maybe not for everyone. Because on my one-to-one practice is completely different than mindfulness work. They come to me me because they know that I have also this healing part. It's not just I'm a coach, but I'm also a bit psychic. So they already know, because all my clients came through referrals. So they know what I do through their friends. First, the friends explain them and they don't believe it, but then they trust their friend and they come and look, I don't believe any of these things. This is why I don't get offended when I hear that. All my clients start like this. But they say, I'm going to give it a try. Then we start. Usually first month, I always tell them, I scan and body never lies. I scan the blocks in the body and then we do the session from there. For example, they come to session, they really want to talk about their manager. It's my manager, the disciplinary job. But when the person talks, if I feel like, my lungs, okay, there's a problem in the lungs. What is it? I'm hearing is grief. Oh, okay. It's not about this. What he lost? He lost his father. When? He never cried. Okay. Well, I will come to your manager later. What about this? So I bring the topic and usually it hits home. You understand immediately when they start crying that it hits home, and we work on it. But it takes a couple of sessions for people to get used to. And in between, I give them some homeworks. They need to do their meditations. I record special meditations based on their issues, and I give them special book based on their issues. So they also start to do the work on themselves. And with this, after first month, we became a really good match so that they come to the sessions super prepared. After that, they bring their topics and they're like, maybe this is related to that. Maybe this is related to this. Then we take from it. So the second month is actually where we work on the issues that they bring. And when this two happen, usually the change started to happen. What I mean is when you shift inside, external, when you shift internal, external always change. A job opportunity comes, or a movement opportunity comes, or a soulmate comes. Then last month, we usually work on more manifestation, actually. I always tell my clients, last month's sessions are the best. They're like spiritual spa.
Yeah.
First month is the hardest. So it's a journey.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And yeah, I just love how, you like, oh, yep, they cry. I love it when it's funny because I'm like, yes, I love it when my clients cry as well, because it means like, yep, we got the right thing going.
Crying is healing. But usually last month they don't cry, because last month is where we co-create. It's about all manifestation. But usually first and second month, there's a lot of tears.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, that sounds really amazing. I'm just looking at the time, girl. So just wanted to ask you a couple more questions before we wrap up. The first one really is like, for our listeners, the audience that's, come across our podcast and listening to it, what's the take-home message you want them to take with them? What's the message you want them to take home with them from this session with?
Yeah. Let me tune in. The message I think I want to give is that everybody has issues, and because it's life and we will always have issues. So please don't make your healing journey a suffering journey. It is better to face the things and move on. It is better to understand what is blocking you and move on rather than staying there in the blame and shame game and in depression. And I've been there. It's really not helping anyone. The more you can go, it's like a dark spiral. At some point, you need to break it and move on. And it is possible for everyone who wants to do it, not for just some special people. It is possible for everyone. When you make the alignment, okay, I'm ready to shift. You can really, really shift. You will still have issues. It's life, but you would know when you transform your life, you understand one thing. You never want to be stuck again. So when things come to your way, you use basic techniques that has been there for over the centuries, like the meditations or journaling or all these basic techniques to move on when the next chapter of your life comes. So please, please take this. That is possible to move on.
Thank you for sharing that. That's just beautiful advice. And Gul, I want to ask you before we wrap up, what's setting your soul on fire at the moment?
Okay, so I love this question because I think our soul needs to be on fire. But sometimes when you do this job, when you're into mindfulness or meditation, people always assume that you're always calm and always zen. And I always say I have fire in my soul, because our soul needs this fire in order to transform, in order to burn. It's like the burn to become. Sometimes you need to burn the sides of you. You need to let them go so you can become the best version of you. So for now, what is setting my soul to the fire is actually my deep, deep, deep desire to understand and let go and move in life, because I'm also going through my own crisis. I'm also going through my own health issues, and this desire of, okay, what is the underlying of this health issue? This desire is, okay, how this can fire help me to transform, is actually what is keeping my soul busy lately.
Yeah, wow. I love how you explain that, there's fire in your soul, because it is so true. Like, we're not always zen, no matter how much work you do on yourself.
No.
You can never be like fully zen. So yeah, wow. I hope, I want to send you like lots of love and healing for your current part of this journey, because I know it's never easy. So thank you for sharing that with us. And yeah, thank you so much for spending your time and sharing your love and wisdom with us today. It's been such a joy, listening to everything that you have to say. Can you share with us, if people want to find out more about you and how they can work with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, thank you. So where they can find me is, there are two sources that I use for communication with people. One is Instagram. They can find me on my Instagram. It's a bit hard name to remember. Probably you will find it in the show notes. But what I do is, actually, I write weekly newsletters, and I just tune in and I write them myself. And I sometimes meditations, and sometimes we do moon meditations, and sometimes I read a book. I want to write about this book. So I wrote them from my heart, based on what's happening in my life and in my client's life. And I send them as newsletter weekly. So the best way to communicate with me is to be on my newsletter group. And for this, we can give a meditation so that you can opt in and you start getting my emails for this podcast. But this is the best way to communicate with me, because there I really channel and I write. And every week after I write, people always say, oh, I have the same this week.
Yeah. That's awesome. I will have all your details in the show notes so people can reach out to you and get to know you more and communicate with you. Thank you so much once again for this wonderful conversation, girl.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.